there's always in every country, not only US, every country has an extremist fraction. Every time of extremists have problems with prefrontal cortex and basal ganglia and anterior cingulate. These are systems in your head, especially basal ganglia, that are gear shifters that allow you for flexible thinking. And society has those, and they become extremists on either side, right? Extremely liberal, no rules whatsoever, and extremely rigid. Those things are absolutely normal. And there is no way to stopping them because we have such a vast society. And to mitigate that, maybe one of the options is introducing permanent, not even mindfulness, but teaching meditation, self-awareness, self-regulation in schools from a kindergarten.
Welcome to Gratitude Geek. I'm Nesbitt-Rodarte, and this week I'm joined by the author of The Magic of Dreaming Big, Acting Small, and Achieving Success, neuroencoding specialist Dominika Staniewicz. Welcome.
Hello, hello, and I am so grateful and excited to be here.
Yay! So tell us your story. How did gratitude help you get to where you are today?
Well, I'm Polish, and that should say it all. Polish people, in their DNA, complain and see only things that could go wrong and nitpick on things that are not right.
That explains my mother-in-law in so many ways, shape, and form.
Yes, I know. It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing to a point where I started becoming more of who I am, not compressed by the society and by the cultural norms of Poland. My mom would call me and say, "You cannot be as happy in those videos. People don't trust happy people. Be more serious." So it is a very strong default in European culture. That's why, for example, when speakers come to Poland, they have to take down the notch. There's no jumping and screaming, and Polish people are very serious. Although they're very good people, very heartwarming people, their personalities are about, complaining, finding things that go wrong. And when I was struggling through a lot of things in my life, that was my default behavior. And then one day when I, went through another coaching class and read another book, and, I ended up in a place where I'm like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. My life looks the way it looks. And the only common denominator in my life is me. Maybe, just maybe, I need to look at things differently. So I ran into a gratitude journal, and to be honest, I'm not great at journaling. I am a speaker. I speak, I sing. Voice is more powerful for me. So I started practicing in the morning and in the evening. Was it hard? At the beginning, I did what everybody did. I would say, I'm grateful for my family, my friends, and something else. And, it was just kind of like, blah, blah, blah. It did absolutely not. I'm like, this doesn't work. That's BS. But then I read a study which showed that in neuroscience, praying and meditation and gratitude create the same synergy and reactions in the brain, light up the reward system. And I'm like, And one of the things they said, you need to feel it. I went to 2019 to Tony Robbins event, and one of the things we did, it's called priming, where you bring things you're grateful for, but you have to feel being grateful to the point where you're crying. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this version will work. So I started in the morning. Now I sit up before I do anything, and I anticipate a great day. What's going to be great? I'm excited about this and that. So I prime my brain for something. But when I go to bed, I bring memories of gratefulness, and I go, okay, what am I grateful for? It was so amazing that I met my friend and he found another person to introduce me to, and I get to know another person that is, excited about doing things that I'm doing. And I get myself to a point where I literally feel it everywhere in my body, and I'm ecstatic. And that started working. So what happens is when you evoke certain emotions and certain chemicals in your brain, you start rewiring your brain, which decreases automatically cortisol. And then automatically it reduces stress in your body, and your limbic system kind of goes into a calmer state. And that also correlates with something called serotonin, which is the happy hormone of relaxation and being just good with what you are. And that started working because I would wake up in a much better state. And I also made a promise many years ago to myself that I am never going to bed angry. I will
Mm.
resolve everything unless, it's something traumatic like death, then probably that's not happening. But other than that, every daily things, I'm not going to bed angry. And that gratitude offsets that and allows me to still enjoy the day. And when I started coaching people, I found that everybody, including me, till years ago, we would say, "Oh, I had a horrible day." And I went, "Well, was the day really horrible? So what was horrible?" Well, I got in a fight with a person, well, argument, not a fight, an argument of a person. Okay, and how long did that last? Well, it lasted like 15 minutes. And how long was I angry for afterwards? Well, about half an hour. So 15 minutes plus half hour, that's 45 minutes. So I'm saying I had a horrible day because of 45 minutes. It's not even 1/3 of my day. I had a fantastic day and an unpleasant event. And that also shifted because you get to be grateful for everything else that happened. You don't dismiss the good things. Notice that when something bad is happening, we go around and tell everybody 50 billion times. We remember and we reinforce that memory. But when something good happens, yeah, yeah, my friend called me, I haven't spoke with them in a year, and you move on. And you never tell that to anybody again. You
Yeah,
don't reinforce the good memories. Why?
yeah, you should. So the sentence that sticks out there is, I had a fantastic day and 15 minutes of it was uncomfortable. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that is such a shift in just the way you look at things. I love that. All right, I have to ask about Tony Robbins. I think you may be the only person I've ever had on the show who I've asked this question of. So here
Let's
we go.
go.
So, what surprised you the most about attending that Tony Robbins event? Maybe you need to explain a little bit about what goes on too, because the listener might not know.
Okay, so I'm a crew member for Tony Robbins and I do attend his events, not as frequently as some people. So I really didn't drink the Kool-Aid, but I enjoy once in a while a drink. So I don't drink every day. What do I mean by this? Tony Robbins is human, and Tony Robbins has done a phenomenal job for people who are in a state of disarray, pain, and anger, and they're out of ideas how to change their life. And his methods work phenomenally for those people in that state, especially if they're hurt and non-healed, because he puts you in a state of exhaustion on purpose. The events every day is 16 to 18 hours. And we have you jump, we have you scream, we have you do exercises, we have you hug, we have you angry. I mean, we have you exercising. There's a reason for that. Neuroscience, and I'm a brain coach, so neuroscience is kind of my thing because I work with it every day, is there's a clear connection between your brain and your body. What your body does, your brain receives, and the other way, what your brain creates, your body receives. Your feelings are the chemical releases of your brain, but by how you sit, you can change your state. So he teaches you that there is more control over your life than you think you have, but your life that depends on you. And you feel like you're getting back control, which is absolutely phenomenal. And there are plenty of methods, including priming, meditation, Master Co. I love Master Co. Master Co is super funny. He is a pranic healer master and a few other things. Phenomenal guy, who does meditation of twin hearts. If you guys don't know what that is, please go to YouTube, do it. It makes you feel amazing. So those are the things that are happening over 6 days. And there is now Stanford studies that have been running for years have found that about 80% of people who come in with depression do not experience depressive symptoms for at least 5 years.
Really?
Yes, because you cannot change your way of thinking without changing your way of being. We're human beings. And who you are, how you act, how you sit, who you surround yourself, all of this is impacting your brain and your state. Now, despite the fact that, you might have a mental illness, you might have problems with your brain functioning, there are other things. But they have found in those studies, and they follow thousands of people, that about 80% of them do not experience depressive episodes for about 5 years. They have lower days, but not depressive days. If they continue.
I'm a little confused because we changed subjects. Is that
Sorry.
people who attend the Tony Robbins event, or is
Yes.
that people? Okay, so people who attend the Tony Robbins event could go for 3 to 5 years without having a
Depressive
mental
events.
depressive event.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Now,
And how is that tracked?
so there is Stanford study. People are taken into the study. They pay for their event. And then every half a year, every 3 months, scientists go and they fill in they get on calls, they fill in the questionnaires, and they're tracking people. And those studies are absolutely available. You can go to Stanford, find it, I guess, on their website. There's a whole department doing this. And now they did that with Date with Destiny. And there are permanent changes. Now, obviously, 5-day event is a big boost of energy. And a lot of those people do a lot of things in the first 3 months. And then this wears off. So now it's up to you to keep going and adjust this and keep practicing what you've learned. Because most people think, oh, I've learned, I know. We all know how to be healthy, wealthy, and happy, okay? And skinny. We all do. It just seems that none of us are all healthy, wealthy, and skinny.
Well, I think that's the big disappointment after you attend an event like that. Or I've never been to a Tony Robbins kind of event, but I've been to 3-day events where I come home and I feel fantastic, and then 2 weeks later I'm like, what happened, right? So was it that I just didn't have enough neuroencoding, or what?
Well, I don't know what was the technique used on those events, and
Yeah,
I'm sure they were amazing, right? I don't know who you went to. But one of the things I tell
well,
everybody,
I've never been to an event like a Tony Robbins event. I've been to events that were meant to excite and build you up
yeah.
and make you excited.
So,
But it's not just me. I mean, a lot of people come home from events like that, all revved up and ready to go, and
yeah.
then
And it's like with going to university. When you go to university and never use their knowledge, you're going to lose it. And for me, when I started going to his events, so I've learned from my coaches, and also what I practice as a coach is that when I read a book, I don't read another book until I pick 3 things from the book and I implement them in my life. They become permanent. That's when I pick another book and I read it. I don't go 55 books. No, because it's stored knowledge is not useful. So when I went to that event, I, came down, relaxed, and then I went, okay, what are my takeaways? What are 3 things I really want to change in my life to improve my life? And how am I going to go about it? I hired a coach, not a Tony Robbins coach. I hired a coach, and I started working on those things for 9 months to make them permanent. And when I went then to next event, which is Date with Destiny, absolutely in love with that event, I was already prepared. A lot of people didn't do their work, so they had to kind of revert back and grow back into it. I had things, out of the way, the small things that I realized, and new things came up, and I hired a coach again and I started working on it. So the progress was visible and it's permanent. See, your neural pathways, which are responsible how you think, how you react, your behaviors, your habits, everything you do, when you first experience something and it's very emotional, it becomes like this little tiny hair, and that's all it is. But your old neural pathways are like highways because you kept repeating the same behavior and thoughts over and over again. So then from that little hair, you need to keep repeating. So it becomes like a ribbon, and then it becomes like a sidewalk, and then it becomes like a one-way street, then a two-way street, and then a freeway. And when it's a freeway, the other ones fade away, but they're always there. So in a situation of high stress or trauma, they might come up, but you have enough tools to put them back down because you already have a new highway that you're using constantly. So most people think you go to an event and life changes forever. It can, yes, if you do the work afterwards. It's like kind of expecting to get married, have a honeymoon, and then never do anything else with your husband again and expect the marriage to work.
Yeah. Anybody who thinks marriage isn't work has never been married.
Yes, that's one. You go to a gym, right? You exercise for 8 hours and you're exhausted for the next 2 weeks. And you never go to a gym again and go, it didn't work. No,
No.
Sherlock.
Yeah.
Of course they don't. You need consistency.
I
There's no
bought a gym membership. I never went and I didn't
good.
lose any weight.
I know. How can that be? I don't know.
I don't, yeah. You just explained neural pathways better than anybody has ever explained it to me before. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. I am learning a lot about, well, not a lot. I'm dabbling in learning about neuroscience because it's just so amazing to me the things that we're learning about our brain. I mean, we haven't even tapped into all of it.
It's phenomenal. Changes the world of psychology, psychiatry, and everything else. The
Sports.
sports, everything.
So what attracted you to it?
The power of it. The fact that people don't have to go to therapy for 10 years or 5 years, that an anxiety can take to get rid of it up to 3 months and you're done. That your the change, a lot of things can be done using neuroscience, understanding how the brain works. And I try not to go into scientific explanations. I try to, as you know, simplify it so everybody gets it. But when you know how things work and you can do the practical exercises for your client. And I had so many clients. Okay, just client that I'm working with right now, young lady, had a car accident, terrified of getting on a freeway, has not been on a freeway in a year and a half. It took us 3 sessions from level 9 of anxiety. We're at level 2. She's driving back and home to work on a freeway. Now,
Wow.
does she feel super comfortable when there's a lot of traffic? No, but she's freaking driving. That's going to be fixed anyway, right? We used EMDR, which is phenomenal for trauma
What does
responses.
that stand for?
Oh gosh, I haven't used the acronym EMDR. Eye rapid desensitization movement technique.
Okay.
So it's a like finger moving, you ask specific questions, and there are scientific brain maps, and they scan the brain while this was happening, and you can see how a memory is connected to an emotion. And while you're doing EMDR, those things get disconnected. So you change your memories from stones that are weighing you down into feathers, where it's a memory but has no emotional connotation.
Hmm. And our brain lets us do that.
Yes, it does. Your brain is plastic. Your brain can rewire itself. Your brain can change. Different parts of your brain can take over on functioning parts of your brain. You can it's one of organs besides your liver that can rebuild itself.
Plastic is the name that people use to describe this thing. It's made out of plastic. And usually it's really hard and think people you think of plastic as a vessel. You know, they make things out of it that are firm and hard, right? But really what plastic means is malleable.
Oh, what a beautiful world. As a Polish person, I did not know that word. Thank you for teaching me.
But so a lot of folks don't think of plastic as being as something that can be moved and manipulated and
I think the
changed.
correct word would be plasticity.
Yeah. Well, no, but plastic does mean that. It's plastic. Yeah. It does mean that, but it also means this container is made of a
True.
substance that's called plastic that's made from oil, right?
Right.
Which is why the oil and gas companies will never go out of business as long as we use plastic, even if we aren't driving cars that run on gas. So
That is
stop
true.
freaking out, people. Okay, so you were talking about driving on a big freeway, and we were just talking about the oil and gas industry. Uh, I believe you live in Houston.
Yes, I do.
So I used to live in Houston, and you all just had a huge storm. So how you doing?
Yes, we did.
How you? This is July of 2024, by the way, if you're listening in the future. So are you? Do you have electricity? Is everything going
Oh,
well?
I mean, we're here online, right? So I was one of the lucky ones. I didn't lose electricity. I didn't lose internet. So I was looking as the rain was going sideways and trees were breaking, and I was working on my computer, and it was very surreal. But unfortunately, the whole city, there were still like 5 or 6 days afterwards. At least 800,000 people don't have electricity. My daughters don't have electricity. They don't have water. There is food insecurity. The stores have nothing that is perishable right now. There are no fruit. There are no things that you would eat naturally. So that didn't survive because if you guys don't know, Houston loves humidity and heat. And besides those storms that, drops like to 86 when it's raining, maybe 76, then it goes back to 96 with all that rain so it is still challenging. They're still cleaning up and electricity is not back yet.
So I want to talk about neuroscience and preparing for storms. Because people in Houston, if I remember correctly, it's been 7 or 8 years since I lived there. We left right after Hurricane Harvey. I had lived through too many hurricanes. I was ready to move.
Got it. I might get there one day too.
If you ever want to hear my life story, I've been through a volcano,
Oh, I'm missing
major
a
earthquake,
volcano.
a
I
major
have a
earthquake.
checklist of disasters.
Do you? We could compare disasters. I love it. I don't know if it happens everywhere because I live in Michigan now, and people in Michigan just understand that before the winter starts, you need to make sure your cupboards are full of food. But in Houston, they would do this crazy thing. If they heard a storm was coming, they would go to the store and buy all the milk, peanut butter, and milk and toilet paper, and and bread. And I'm like, normally a storm 2 weeks tops. You don't need to have enough bread to feed the entire neighborhood, right? So what is it? Can we fix the brains of everybody in Houston so they don't do that anymore?
No, because Houston is very diversified and diet of those diverse cultures is very different. And one thing that I have noticed is that irrational behaviors are part of human. Although
That's
we
pretty
grow up,
irrational, that behavior right there.
yes. On the other hand, people where they're living in fear and their limbic system takes over and the prefrontal cortex shuts down, they do the craziest things, right? So one of the things is kind of becoming best friends with the hurricanes and natural disasters. And knowing it's coming, having a list, and there are ways you can train for that. Like you go to training if you're afraid, for example, of turbulence or flights. There are special trainings when they desensitize you and you have the rational behavior. But not everybody functions very well in high stress. And remember that, see, I'm one of those who chose not to have a TV. It's been 24 or 25 years since I've had a TV. I don't own a TV.
Wow.
And when I go to hotels and I get invited to speak on big stages, I stay in hotels, or when I go train people in different companies, I stay in hotels. And I'm like, let me watch TV. That's a big mistake every time I do that. And then I watch all those medications that they're being promoted 24/7 for everything under the sun. And then like the promotion of a medication is like 10 seconds. And then the next 25 seconds is they're talking about all the side effects that you might have. And all of them say you basically might die out of stroke, more or less. And I'm like, there's no way when your brain is getting infused with fear, anger, and stress, and that type of information, that you will not have a stress reaction that is absolutely insane and not proportional to the event. Your environmental associations, your environment, and the purity of that environment, lack of information that is distressing you is key. And notice that media, one of my degrees is in media analysis. And if you watch 5 or 6 different channels at the same time and you compare the same news, supposedly, sounds nothing like the same news. By changing the picture, sound, and vocabulary, you, out of the same information, which is a fact, can create 55,000 different information sites. And all of them are based in fear or scarcity, which is constantly promoted into every human who watches TV. And we are the biggest consumers. America has, I believe, 4.6 TVs per household.
We have one.
Average.
We have one TV.
I have 0. So we're the reason why it's not more, right? And that says a lot, because TV actually slows down your brain waves, takes away prefrontal cortex, changes decisions, releases a lot of fear, tenses up, and doesn't allow your brain to develop properly and analyze the information. So can we change that for anywhere in the world? Absolutely. Would we have to get rid of TV? Absolutely.
There's 2 problems. There's too many people watching negative news all day long, and
there's no other news.
And then there's there are a couple. I have a couple of places where I find news that isn't so negative. There are also people who never watch the news at all, so they have no idea what's going on. They just had consequential elections in France and England, and I don't know how many Americans actually know that.
Of course they don't.
You
But
know,
America is a very different breed because you got to remember that I'm Polish, so I'm very versed in European, African, all the other nations just because how we were brought up. But one Poland would fit three times into Texas.
yeah.
Our one state is usually bigger than one country in Europe. So we got to give some credit. Although I used to say what you're saying right now, I realize that every state is like a different country in
Oh,
North
absolutely.
America.
Absolutely.
And they have the same knowledge to speak the same language. Because if you ask a European, what's happening in Texas, they won't have a clue unless it's a hurricane. And, will a European know that New York is getting a new governor or something? Of course not, right? Because they're not
Yeah,
big.
that's true.
So I think we got to step back. And it's like, I used to laugh about a lot of things. And then I saw this really cool show in Poland, in Polish. They were asking people from an exam basic questions like, what is the capital of something? And unfortunately, Polish people, those who were asked, 80% of them had no clue. They could not recognize even their own country on a map. And I used to associate that only with
Do
Americans.
you
And
know
then
how long ago that was?
not long.
Okay, so it's a recent phenomenon.
No, no, it's not.
No?
No, it's not. Science shows that about 10% of people in the world has growth mindset. So that is not a lot, 10%. And another 30% are, kind of more ambitious than average. Most people are looking to be average. They're comfortable. And the truth is what it is. And it's not America. It's not Poland. It's not France. Different knowledge, different educational systems. But the truth is that there's not enough space for everybody to be a manager and business owner.
Yeah.
We do need people who enjoy working at a factory. And I know quite a few people who are very happy going to factory, doing the same thing over and over. They feel relaxed, they feel calm, they go home and they enjoy their daily life and they love their life. And that's perfectly fine. And
But there is I'm not going to say arrogance isn't the right word, and I wish I knew what the right word was, but there is this notion that if you're not an entrepreneur, you're nobody. I mean, but entrepreneurs try to like, okay, I'm saying it wrong, but it always sort of riles me up when I see people talking about how if you're working for somebody else, you're never going to get anywhere. You'll never become a millionaire working for somebody else. But the thing is, society needs people to plant the vegetables, harvest the vegetables, feed the animals, slaughter the animals, butcher the animals so that we can eat them, right? We need people who can fill the gas pumps. In order for our society to move forward, we need people who do all sorts of things. And it's this notion that you have to be an entrepreneur is harmful to society.
Take a deep breath. Put a smile on your face.
I know. But the thing is, I'm filled with gratitude for the people who put food in my food basket.
So am I. And at the same time, that shows what environment you're in. See, when I long time ago started coaching, and I've learned all those things, and I would look around, I'm like, there's no point of me learning this. Everybody knows this.
That's not true.
Well, in my environment, everybody knew this.
Mm-hmm.
See, and the moment you step out of your environment, people go, as I think, so I feel, as I feel, so I do, so I have. And I go, oh my God, that's enlightening. I'm like, it is. It turns out that we and you are kind of biased towards our environment, and we assume that everybody says that. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that there are so many people who come to me who are looking for coaching that have been told by their parents that if you don't have a regular job, you're a nobody. And if you don't go to a regular school, you're a nobody. So exactly the opposite message. That shows only when we hear a message over and over, that means we're not enough in environments outside of ours that we're common to.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to explore how other people think. So do you know what I do to explore how people never meet in my life? Twice a month, I drive a Lyft.
Oh.
with all my income that I have and things that I do and speak on stages. I drive a Lyft and talk to people who are some amazing, some not amazing, some, low income, some high income. And I drive them and I talk to them. And it's enlightening because their knowledge is not my knowledge and we would never meet in any other way.
That's a very good idea. Because you really, unless you meet other people who have different thought processes than you, then your paradigm is your paradigm.
Yep.
And there's no way to change it.
And
I
I'm so
am
grateful.
I am a California girl who lived in
Okay.
Texas for 20 years and I now live in Michigan. That is like living in three different countries.
Yep.
I'm still a California girl. The culture shock that I felt when I moved from the San Francisco Bay Area to Houston, Texas, the culture in 1996, I think is when I moved. The culture shock was as if I had moved to another country. It was really strong.
Yeah.
And then I had culture shock again when we moved to Michigan. It's of the
And
three
you're still within the same country.
yeah, and I'm in the same country, separated by a couple, 1,000 miles here or there, right? But still, it's like three different countries if we were in Europe. So, yeah. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about you advising the Polish president and taking part in labor negotiations. I need to hear this story.
Okay. Well, the story is I was very ambitious, as we know. I was an A type until I got cured out of this A type personality that was killing me. And I was 24 and I was running my own company, and it was a recruitment company and a language school. And I got invited to an organization called Business Center Club, which was representing all the employers in negotiations. And because of my HR background and sociology background, I started doing analysis for them on labor market changes in law and influence on the society. So a little bit more human aspect and how will that transition, what will be the reactions, and what will be repercussion of the law change, whatever was implemented. And because I'm pretty good at talking, TVs enjoyed working with me, and I became an expert commenting on different changes, social changes, and changes in the environment and workplace, kind of a bigger picture perspective. And then with time, I got invited to a three-way commission, which is in Poland. Every year they get together, unions, government, and representatives of the employers, and we negotiate minimum wages. And then because I was also an adjunct at a university for 12 years, I got invited to a project where we were taking skills and describing those skills with other European countries. And we created a matrix of skills that would be transferable. So wherever you graduated, if an employer saw your diploma, they knew what you knew. It was kind of, so it could be, interchangeable, which is not happening in US. US, that's a different story.
Yeah.
And while that was happening, I started meeting people as it is, and I got invited to a advisory committee for the president. There were, I think, 12 of us on that committee, and it was labor law and European Union education kind of mix, and that's how it happened. And I was the youngest one, and I thought nothing of it, which was very weird. I had written thank you notes from the president of signatures and stuff. And, because of what I was doing in Europe for such a long time, I really thought that was no big deal. It was so normal for me. It's like, somebody goes to a factory, I go to the Polish president or, to negotiate something, no big deal. And then I learned that it was a big deal, but I had no proof besides, those letters, but not many pictures. I never thought of taking pictures. I mean, everybody I knew worked in the same place. Nobody took pictures. Why would you, right?
So this was after the EU.
No, that's all together. That is all happening together.
It's all happening at the same time. Okay. Yes. When I was in the early 90s, I had a roommate who was Polish. When did Poland leave the USSR?
Oh God, long ago, 89.
89. Okay. I know that was but it really wasn't long ago. It was only 35 years ago.
Well, it was like the communist dropped, but we left it earlier. So 86 it started, 83. But the total big thing, the freedom, the walk, Wałęsa, and everything else, that was 89.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been about 35 years-ish. So Poland in the last 40 years and 4 decades went from being part of a communist conglomerate to being part of a democratic union among other countries. And that is not very long. 40 years is not a very long time. I mean, I remember, I'm old enough to still think of Russia as the red enemy. That's how old I am, right? You know, so and that happened in all of Europe, all of Eastern Europe. I mean, that happened in so many countries very quickly. So I'm trying to get to my question, and it's really hard to form it. But what can we learn from how quickly that happened and how successful it's been?
So I would say in the social aspect, and even connecting that to Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Revolutions happen when you're in pain. And that's when there's a lot of pain where people are ready to put everything on one line, burn the boats, massive action. And that's what revolution is. There's a lot of pain buildup and they're ready. But then after that explosion, the emotions come down after, let's say, a year or two, and they're like, oh crap, what do I do now? How do we work this? And that's where learning starts. And if you don't have people like European Union supporting you, sending you money, teaching you, having experts come in, they would revert back into old ways. But because there was support, they'll coach, right, in a form of experts that have done that for a long time, they were able to build new values and new behaviors and build and heal from that pain and now start create different. Now, did everybody go through that? No, there's a peace party that finally lost in Poland, and they are still in the Russian mentality and, everything frenzy and, we're going to have the babysitter that, I had sex with, be a director at a big conglomerate or something.
And that's called the peace party?
Yes, PIS.
Oh, okay.
So
not peace as in give peace a chance, but
well, it's spelled the same way. Almost. PIS, but yeah. But that is exactly the same mechanism as we have as humans. So revolutions work well when there's a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of frustrations, and you're ready to burn the boats. And for the revolution to work, you need to have the support system after the emotions come down and you ended celebration of being free, because you don't know what it is to be free. And you're like, okay, what do I do now with this freedom? Because the only way this is exactly the same thing with the mentality, what happens with our beautiful veterans, that they had all the rules and all the books and everything was told how to do. There was no variation. There's one way and everybody does it one way and it's very clear and easy. And then you end up in the human world, the real world, and there are options. And like, what do you do with options? How do I choose? What if this is not a right option? What if this? And the doubt comes in because you were never exposed to it. That's why you need support to transition. So every revolution to be successful needs a transition period with support from experts and people who are coaches in that right. And that's the same mechanism.
So there was a far-right politician here in the United States who recently said that there is a revolution happening right now and it will remain bloodless. But hold on, it will remain bloodless as long as the left allows it. That's the quote, okay? So the way that we prevent this from happening is that we stop them from feeling the fear that they're feeling. I mean,
so the guy who you're actually talking about is a gentleman that not visited the US, but he's a US and it's the Project 2045 or something like this.
Yeah, Heritage Foundation.
Yes, that's the guy. There's always in every country, not only US, every country has an extremist fraction. Every time of extremists have problems with prefrontal cortex and basal ganglia and anterior cingulate. These are systems in your head, especially basal ganglia, that are gear shifters that allow you for flexible thinking. And society has those, and they become extremists on either side, right? Extremely liberal, no rules whatsoever, and extremely rigid. Those things are absolutely normal. and there is no way to stopping them because we have such a vast society. And to mitigate that, maybe one of the options is introducing permanent, not even mindfulness, but teaching meditation, self-awareness, self-regulation in schools from a kindergarten, where those kids grow up with the ability not to live through emotions, but live through use of their brain. See, we are right now in a revolutionary state, which brings out all the rigid people, and it's a phenomenal state. Don't get me wrong. All of these are necessary. There's nothing wrong with them. We used to disregard feelings. Everything was facts.
Yeah.
Now we're in a society of
Oh,
feelings.
feelings are the reason why we're in this.
Yes, feelings are everything.
Yeah.
Feelings are reality. Well, feelings are not reality. Feelings are just chemical releases in your brain that create a sensation in your body. And that's not reality. That's not facts. But we've been very prone to now experience feelings, and everybody's feeling everything and they're the most valid thing. No, they're not. But yes, I'm a coach. I know what I'm saying. Trust me. There is a balance between that. And that has to happen for the balance to happen, because we have to fail to get better, to learn from it. And that process happens. If you look at history, you had wars, and then you had famine, then you had external growth, huge growth of the economy. And then when it was great, we would go into depression because people who experienced pain didn't want their kids to experience pain. So they took away all the pain, and the kids
You
had
can't
no
do that.
skills,
Yeah, you have
right?
to
And they
let
couldn't
kids experience pain.
persevere.
Yeah.
They lost grit, so the economy would go down, right? And it's all connected. That's a part of societal growth, and it happened the hundreds and thousands of years, but we see only this part that we're living. But if you take a wider picture, for example, global warming, it's absolutely real, but it happened at least 4 times before.
Yeah.
Right? And yes, are we speeding up? Yes. Is it quicker than it used to be? Yes. But it happened 4 times before, right?
And when it did, there was an extinction event. So
yes,
do we
and
want to
there's
be
an ice age. And
do we
as
want to
soon
be
as,
extinct? Can
well,
we
we
slow it
will be.
down?
Well, you will have an ice age event again sooner or later, right? The super volcanoes, one is in Italy, I believe, and one is in here in Yosemite. If they blow up, we have at least 60, 80, 100 years of ice age and winter and not much of growth, and some things will go extinct. That is a normal process. Needless to say, we can slow it down. It's probably not going to happen when we're alive, but it is part of evolution.
Yeah.
And we are hoping to control everything, and we can't. And one of the beautiful things about joy and gratitude is allowing life to happen and finding reasons to be joyful, finding reasons to be grateful for, and releasing the control outside of you to it happens with now. Granted, is what you think, right? Your thoughts create what you feel, and what you feel creates what you do, and what you do creates what you get back from the world. So what it means is what you have. And that is the part you can control. But whatever
Absolutely.
else everybody else is feeling, thinking, doing, you have zero control over it. You might have some influence, but taking responsibility on yourself or giving somebody the power of saying, you made me feel awful. Well, why
No,
would you
you made
give so
yourself
much?
feel awful. Yeah.
Yes, you gave so much power to somebody of their words. And every time I feel awful, and I do feel awful, guess what? I'm human and I feel like crap quite often. I go, okay, what is not healed in me that this touched me? Because, and that's an example from Tony Robbins, if you have a huge cut on your hand and somebody grabs you by that hand, it's painful like hell because it's an open wound and you're screaming and kicking and it's horrible. But when the same wound heals and somebody grabs you here, you don't even notice. See, every time we experience pain is something not healed in us. And the good news is you will never heal everything.
You have to have pain. You need to experience pain to learn.
Yep, absolutely.
So when I was diagnosed with breast cancer 10 years ago, I've been living with metastatic breast cancer for 10 years and will be for the rest of my life. The only thing that I could control was my happiness.
Yeah.
So I was in charge of how I felt, and I had to choose to be happy. Did it
Right.
mean that I chose happiness every day? Oh, no, some days, you can't choose happiness every day, but most days I did. And most days I do. And I think that is why I'm still here 10 years later.
I'm so excited that I get the chance to talk to you and see your beautiful orange magenta hair.
It's magenta. I think it's magenta.
Okay, okay.
All right. Well, is there anything that we have not covered that you wanted to talk about today?
Well, we were supposed to talk about gratitude, but we ended up in so amazing, weird
But
subjects.
but you know what? Everything is informed by gratitude.
That is true.
Well, I truly believe that the way that we solve the problem that the United States is in right now is that we all get a little bit more grateful. You know?
That is an option also.
You
Gratitude is
know?
a great antidote for a lot of things. It's not going to solve everything, but it's going to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Well,
And knowing that, life is life, and as Les Brown says, there is some things you have no control over, like your cancer. And, I, for example, am epileptic, and it turned out that my epilepsy is genetic.
oh
So I will
wow.
have to take medication for the rest of my life. But because of how I live, I have no seizures. I have a healthy EEG, and I'm living a perfectly normal life, a little bit more hygienic than most people. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I go to sleep before midnight 99.9% of the time. But I was able to reverse life of seizures every 2, 3 weeks, every 2, 3 months.
Wow.
So
Congratulations.
we have control over our bodies. We have control over a lot of things, not everything.
I
But
think
this is,
that in the next 30 years, we're going to learn more about this little
oh,
8 pound thing in our heads,
absolutely.
that things like epilepsy and cancer, we'll be able to figure out. I'm not going to say we're going to cure them, but I think we're going to be able to figure out how to
Oh,
manage them better.
to let you know, I'm fascinated. I've been, that's not my specialty, but I am fascinated by it. So they have now created 4 RNA targeting vaccines for 4 types of cancer. They take out your DNA, they input a specific part of DNA, so the RNA in it, and they inject back into you and attacks only cancer cells. And it has been extremely successful. Trials are now done on humans in the UK. So we are going to
We're
have
getting there.
targeted vaccines and cures for cancer dedicated to you.
Yeah.
And
Well,
neuroscience,
it's the
it's
science is amazing. I
yeah.
the monoclonal antibody brouhaha when COVID was going on, people were like, "Oh, how can they know about this? How did this science come about so quick?" Those conspiracy theories. I've been taking a monoclonal drug for 10 years now. It's a protein inhibitor, but it is targeting a protein in your body. This targeted science that's a 25 or 30-year-old science. It's been
Yeah,
around, and now it's just a matter of identifying the virus or
absolutely.
the protein. Or if you can isolate the protein or the virus, you can come up with a way to target it. And that technology has been around for decades. And it's now that the mRNA thing is going on, it's just going to keep getting better and better.
I mean, I'm excited for all the beautiful things that are coming our way. I think, yes, not everybody's able to reap the benefits of it, but it's getting better and better. And, we used to live, we are talking about menopause, which is part of brain coaching and understanding how hormones influence your brain, and they do.
Oh yeah.
Um, and, people go, oh, this is blah, blah. I'm like, look, we women didn't live long enough to have menopause. So nobody knew it existed.
Oh
We
God.
live long enough now for the last 60 to 80 years, and
Yeah.
it's a brand new thing. And yes, medication was tested only on men. Now they're testing it on women because it has different effects and different dosages. We're learning that. But menopause is a brand new thing. We were dead before we had menopause. So it is phenomenal that we're speeding up the knowledge and, learning how to mitigate this very uncomfortable part of life for women. And 100% of women will go through it if they live.
So back 100 years ago, 850 women per 100,000 births. So of 100,000 women who gave birth, 850 of them would die during the birthing process, just 100 years ago.
Yeah. And that was a very dangerous thing, right?
Hmm.
Giving
Oh
birth.
yeah, being pregnant is a very dangerous thing. We need to be thankful for everything that we have to keep us healthy while we are pregnant.
I mean,
So today it's 600. It was 850. So that number's dropped by 250 women
and
per
that's
100,000.
and that's for US, and thank God. So US actually has the one of highest mortality rates for infants
Yeah.
and women in the world, and
Yeah.
that's very disturbing.
It is very disturbing. It is very disturbing. But that is a topic for another day.
Yes.
All right, Dominika, this is your moment of gratitude. For whom or what are you most grateful?
I am grateful for the experiences I'm living every day. I'm grateful that I had the privilege to come back and live after my near-death experience. I'm grateful for all my clients that can move on and have a better life. I'm grateful for my two amazing daughters, and I'm grateful for me that I am willing to grow and learn and be open-minded.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, the podcast for grateful micropreneurs building genuine, lasting relationships with clients, colleagues, and community. Our theme music is track 14 by Rev Brock and Sololi. To connect with Dominika Staniewicz, head over to the show notes at gratitudegeek.com. This is episode 232. I've been your host, Candice Rodarte. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy.